I'm going to talk to you a little bit about hope deferred. What is hope deferred? Proverbs 13:12 says, "Hope deferred makes the heart sick, but a desire fulfilled is a tree of life." Many of us on this healing journey start out with a little bit of hope because we've heard about other people who have healed, and maybe our hope gets deferred as our journey continues to drag on longer and longer, and we keep thinking, when is this going to change? When am I going to start seeing a difference? And I know, I understand that, because it took me a long time to heal, especially certain things. It took me 2 years before I added all foods back in. So how do we get over hope deferred, right? That's a good question. I'm going to share a couple of things with you. And a lot of these things you already know, but I need to reiterate them and remind you because they're so very important. What are you speaking? Whenever we are experiencing hope deferred and we start getting frustrated with the fact that we haven't experienced healing, we have to remember and be aware of what we are speaking. Am I speaking words of life over myself? Am I speaking in expectation? Am I speaking about how I expect that I'm healed already? Andrew Womack and Barry Bennett, they talk about how we need to be in a position where we are not sick and trying to get well in our brains, but that we are well and that we are resisting sickness. So mindset is so very important. And that's one of the things that we need to keep in mind. Another thing, words that you speak. Am I saying my anxiety or my rheumatoid arthritis? We cannot claim something that we don't want. If I'm saying those kinds of things and then hoping that I'm going to heal, I'm still expressing that it's mine, that I'm still dealing with those things. So we have to stop doing that. We've got to take that out of our vocabulary. There's no more my sickness, my disease, or whatever. Right? And it's so important. What else? Catching doubt. Every time those doubtful thoughts pop up, oh, I don't think I'm healing. I don't know if I'm ever going to heal. Grab that thought, catch that thought, and immediately turn it into a prayer of gratitude and praise. Thank you so much, God, that by Jesus' stripes, I am already healed. That's so very important. Hebrews 11:1 says that now faith is the substance of things hoped for and the conviction of things not seen. So the substance, that word substance, can also be translated assurance. The assurance of things hoped for. The word hope doesn't mean, oh gee, I hope this is going to happen. No, hope in this case literally means expectation. I am expecting it to happen. And then the conviction, the word conviction also means evidence. So we are expecting and then expecting evidence. But they're the things that we're not seeing yet, and that's okay. So we are expecting those things to occur. You have to get to a place in your brain that you are taking that message of healing from here and getting it into your heart. How do you do that? So a couple of things. One, as I mentioned, the words that you're speaking, catching those thoughts of doubt, and then visualizing yourself healed and whole and well. Well, why is that important? Why is it necessary to visualize? Visualizations are so powerful for a number of reasons. When we visualize seeing ourselves living the life that we want to have, and I'm not talking about visualizing yourself healing, I'm talking about visualizing yourself living a life of a healed person. So you visualize what you want your life to look like once you are healed. And then bring God into those visualizations. Oh God, I praise you and thank you that I'm able to go for a run, that I'm able to go hike a mountain, that I'm able to go back to work, whatever it is. So you are praising God and thanking Him in your visualization for what you want your life to look like, what you're expecting your life to look like once you are healed. And one of the things that does is it increases your faith. Visualizing and seeing yourself well increases your faith, and you're speaking those words of faith to God. Thank you, God, that this is happening. Thank you, God, that this is my life now. Not only that, whenever we visualize, something powerful takes place in our brains. And the brain doesn't know the difference between imagination and reality. And so we can visualize something, and when we visualize doing what we want to be doing, we're basically telling our brains, look, this is what I choose to be my reality, which then makes the brain line up with your mind and your thoughts, and then your body is going to follow. So this is so important. It's so important to do visualizations, and I know a lot of people have a hard time with it, but give it a try. And I've talked a little bit about how you can encourage your brain to grow in its ability to visualize by doing very simple visualizations, even of daily tasks. So you want to visualize that, and basically what you're trying to do, whenever you're visualizing those things, whenever you're taking those, catching those thoughts, those doubtful thoughts, turning it into prayers of praise and gratitude, what you're doing is you're getting all of that into your heart. One of the things that you need to do with your visualizations is you really build up that gratitude and that excitement. You want to mix your thoughts with emotions that are positive. This is so important. This is so important because as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. Or a woman, okay? So whenever you are thinking and then bringing feeling and emotion into that, then you are taking it from here and you're putting it in your heart. And you are starting to make that your reality. This is so important. Another thing that I want to talk just briefly about, and I've shared this before, but you may not have heard it before, is I want you to think about, as you are on this journey and as you are changing your neural pathways, because they've been wired that way for a while. I don't know if you're like me. I was dealing with all kinds of issues since childhood. So we're talking, 40, 50 years that I had been dealing with that, and I had to change those neural pathways. That doesn't happen in a day. It takes time. Be patient with yourself, but keep going. Don't give up. A great analogy or illustration that I learned a couple of years ago is just imagine if you had an ice cube, and you take that ice cube and it's freezing outside, and you set that ice cube outside on your back patio. Maybe you have a table out there, so you set that ice cube on the table, and it's 0 degrees outside, okay, 0 degrees Fahrenheit. And then the sun comes out and it starts warming up, but it gets up to 10 degrees, and the ice cube hasn't changed at all. Visually, you can't tell any difference. And then it gets up to 15 degrees. Can't tell any difference. But the temperature is rising. A difference is taking place, even if you're not seeing it. And so it continues to rise, and you get up to 32 degrees. You're still not seeing any difference. 33 degrees, you may not see a difference, but things are changing, right? So you get up to 40 degrees, and you are seeing that ice cube melt. And it's the same way in your brain. Things are changing on a cellular level if you are doing these things. if you're doing your visualizations, if you are catching your words and being so cautious about what you speak, if you are capturing those doubts and changing them and saying, Papa God, I just praise you and thank you that I'm healing. All of these things are so important for your healing journey. And healing is happening, even if you don't see it. One last thing. So whenever I started my journey and I didn't understand why certain things were leaving faster than other things, and I didn't understand until last year, things started to make sense. Here it is. So whenever I first started, I healed from chronic fatigue syndrome and adrenal fatigue a lot faster than a lot of other people. Why was that? Because I had convinced my brain that it was going to happen. That because other people had healed from this, that I could heal from it, and I stopped being afraid of the adrenal fatigue and chronic fatigue syndrome. However, the food was a totally different issue. Like I said, it took me 2 years before I could add food back in. Why? Because I was afraid. I was afraid of food. I was afraid of how food was going to affect me. And so it took me much longer. When we are afraid of something, it takes a lot longer to heal. So be aware of what's going on in your brain and the fear that you may be experiencing around certain symptoms. Those are the things that you need to change. Catch those fearful thoughts and stop agreeing with them. And I know that sounds easy. It's hard, or maybe it sounds hard, but just be aware and don't give power over to fear, because what we fear, we do give power to. So when we start recognizing, wait a minute, I am being afraid of this. And Jesus tells us over and over, do not fear, do not fear, do not fear. So when we get to a point where we're no longer fearing certain symptoms, we're going to start overcoming them a lot faster. Anyway, I hope that this has been helpful.